Controversy seems to follow around Vincent Kennedy McMahon. He's had to make a lot of important calls throughout his career, but one of the biggest is certainly the Over the Edge pay-per-view. Did he make the right choice when he decided to carry on? The show must go on, as Mr. McMahon once said, and now we're going to discuss it as it's been brought up in the brand new Netflix documentary series. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling. Vince McMahon, he's done a lot of stuff in wrestling. This might be arguably, though, the biggest decision he's ever had to make.
Absolutely, the show must go on. We heard it for 25 years. Now let's hear why the show had to go on. Due to the Vince McMahon documentary series. And I like the fact that it's went into all these things like Owen Hart, like Chris Benoit, the steroid scandal. Because, I mean, let's be honest, you're never going to get this again. This is probably the last time you're ever going to get all these legends speaking about this in great detail. So, as negative as the documentary has been about McMahon and how it's painted him in a bad light, I think it does have its positives.
Yeah, it does. We're getting to shine light on some of these situations that have kind of been hidden in the past. Maybe Benoit stuff was spoken about briefly when it initially happened, but I think the Owen stuff, it's never really been discussed about in full. But now we have the opportunity to see what Mr. McMahon has said on the entire thing. By the way, rest in peace, Owen Hart. It was a tragedy, and it's a shame that it went down that way. Obviously, it's wrestling. You never want to see anyone die, and it was a tragic death, and it's just bad luck. I've heard a lot of people say Vince murdered Owen, or Vince Russo even, McMahon, both Vinces murdered Owen. I mean, that's such bullshit. I mean, how people can come out and say that McMahon killed Owen or Vince Russo killed Owen. You got to be some sort of sick, twisted individual, I think, to have that sort of viewpoint.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just these people. It's because they disagree with Russo's booking. It's because they disagree with McMahon on a lot of things. It's an unfortunate set of events, right? See with the Blue Blazer, did he need to come in that entrance, especially when the cameras weren't even rolling? Absolutely not, but it's just the way it happened. It could have happened. I mean, I believe Vince tried it out with Michaels. Michaels did it.
Yeah, McMahon could have...
This could have very easily. It's just unfortunate it was Owen Hart.
Yeah, it could have been anybody. It could have been Michaels, could have been McMahon, could have been Owen, could have been like someone from production or something that was simply just trying it out. It could have been someone from the company that were providing the equipment. I mean, it could have been anybody, but this is what McMahon had to say regarding the decision to continue the broadcast after Owen passed away. McMahon said, quote, "The decision that I had to make was basically whether or not the show goes on. The live audience didn't really see what happened because Owen's fall happened during a blackout while a video was playing on the screen. Had they seen? No question, you have to shut the show down. Those people came to see a show. They didn't come to see somebody die. And me as a businessman, it's like, okay, let's continue on. Let's continue the show. There were a lot of negative comments actually as to whether or not the show should continue." End of quote. So McMahon basically saying that as a businessman, he had to decide to continue the show. He said that he has received a lot of negative comments over continuing the show. And then he mentioned that people came to see a show and they didn't come to see somebody die, which I guess is maybe his reasoning for continuing, because if he ends the show there, the lasting memory is going to... Well, I think the lasting memory is going to be that Owen fell and died, unfortunately, but I can kind of see the logic where my man's thinking, if we just continue the show, then, people might be able to... I don't even want to say enjoy it, but, if you continue the show, you can kind of try and gloss over this tragedy, which I think is what McMahon is getting at.
Yeah... It's like WrestleMania 17, right? As great as that card was, if Tommy Dreamer killed Paul Heyman, that's all it's going to get remembered. I mean, the show probably gets, cancelled right there and then. As for the black, I mean, I see McMahon's logic, right? I see both sides to this. At the end of the day, it was a blackout. It's not like the live cameras seen it, and in the actual arena, as he says, it was blacked out. Most people were focusing on the screen. Which just goes to show you how unfortunate it really was that it happened. So I understand why McMahon fought like this. He is a businessman, and I'm not going to say either side's right. Obviously, if you're connected to Owen Hart, or you're a friend of Owen Hart, or even if you're, I mean, even we've seen people like Austin give thoughts on this. Everyone's going to have a different reasoning for this, whether they want it to go ahead or they want it to be stopped. And yeah, Owen Hart, they eventually got him out of there. It's like, for the most part, people didn't really know what was going on. They didn't know if he died in the ring. They didn't know if they got him back. It wasn't until, JR and King, or more JR, announced it a few minutes later that he had actually passed away. It's it's one of those things you don't plan for. And two more things before we move into any other comments. First of all, this was mid-99. The Monday Night Wars, right, are still going on. Yes, WWF has turned the tide. They've beat the 83 weeks, but you've got to look from McMahon's perspective here. I mean, I get it, someone has sadly died, but he's at war. I mean, this never happened to WCW. This could have very easily happened to Bischoff, and they do the exact same thing. They just continue. So you've got to look at it like that from McMahon's perspective as well. And a second thing, Jonathan Coachman was actually ringside for this, but he wasn't employed by WWE at the time. And the only reason he's in WWE is because he didn't interview because Owen fell. So it just shows you how things work out. Jonathan Coachman would never have been in WWE without this.
That's crazy. I didn't actually realise that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a difficult decision. I can see why McMahon carried on, and I can see why McMahon didn't carry on. Vince then also responded to comments from Bret Hart about the idea that if Vince's son Shane had died, the show would have stopped. McMahon replied to this saying, quote, "Naturally, Bret's going to feel like a brother should. He had every right to say anything negative about our company. Had it been me, not just my son, had it been me who splat it on the mat, like Bret said, I would want the show to go on. So get me out of there, and let the show go on. I'd do it with me, and to this day, I would." End of quote. So McMahon saying that if he died, he would want the show to go on. Now, Bret says that if it was Shane that died, McMahon would have stopped the show. You know what, man? I'm actually not convinced.
I don't think he would have.
I'm not convinced McMahon would have. Had it been Stephanie, I mean, I think possibly. Or you know what? I'm not even. I think McMahon would have just went to the hospital or whatever. But I'm not convinced the actual show would stop.
No, I think McMahon. I think you're right.
I think he would have handed the headset to Patterson.
I understand why Bret thinks like this, but I think McMahon's like, if it was McMahon that fell, he'd be like, his dying words would be, "The show must go on, damn it," and then he'd die.
And with Shane, I'm just not convinced he would. I mean, I remember seeing I seen a meme the other day as like a happy birthday. McMahon was wishing John Cena happy birthday on Twitter, and it was like, "Oh, the greatest superstar of all time, 16-time champion, what a guy, what a man, absolutely love John." And then it showed you the tweet he made about Shane, "Happy birthday, Shane."
Yeah. I don't think him and Shane really get on.
So
maybe they could get on now, but I disagree with Bret. But here, what I would say is, say McMahon did do it, is it not normal for McMahon to stop the show for his son rather than an employee? Is it not different? Would they not be justified if McMahon did?
Let's say
does that make McMahon a bad guy if he would stop it for his son but not Owen?
Let's say Bret had a Canadian wrestling promotion. Maybe Bret would stop it for Owen, but he wouldn't stop it for, some random employee.
I don't think it's a horrible thing if McMahon stops it for a member of his own family but not Owen. I don't think that makes him the devil.
No, I don't either, but I'm still not convinced if it was Shane. I think McMahon would have went to the hospital, but I don't think he would have stopped the show.
I mean, Bret Hart obviously bitter towards the McMahons and WWE. I mean, does maybe a part of Bret think in the back of his head that the reason why they didn't stop the show was like one final F you to him? I mean, Bret's that bitter, he might actually think that way.
But also, I mean, when was it actually confirmed that Owen was dead?
I don't think it was necessary. I think he was unresponsive at ringside, but it wasn't confirmed that he was back in the back of the ambulance.
Yeah, I don't think they confirmed it till Owen had already. That's another thing. Like, see if Owen had died, and they had confirmation that he was dead in the ring. I think that's maybe different. But we've even seen in sporting events where people have fallen and it's not looked good for them. I know Christian Eriksen had his moment. Was it Euros or World Cup?
Euros,
Denmark.
that game did get postponed, but there's games where they haven't.
Yeah, I've seen games. I know in the NFL we've seen players that have like literally collapsed and it has been touch and go whether they're going to survive, and the games have continued. So, I mean, it's all ifs and buts. I think
I guess the difference is this is fake. That's a real sporting event. If people want to go down that route, I totally get that.
Still a lot of money involved, isn't there?
There still is a lot of money involved. I mean, does it matter about your stature on the card? Like, if this was Austin, would McMahon have stopped it? I mean, there's all these questions to be asked, but you know what? For me,
see if it's purely down to money. Let's say it's purely down to money, because if he stops the show, he needs to give refunds out to the people in attendance. He needs to give refunds to the people that bought the pay-per-view. I would imagine everyone that was on the show would still want to be paid. So McMahon would be out of a lot of money. If it's purely for financial reasons, Vince McMahon is a businessman. Is he not entitled to factor that in? It's all right for the average person at home saying, no, you can't be doing that. But, I mean, we're not the one that are risking millions. We're not the ones risking our livelihood here.
Yeah.
McMahon was betting everything he had on this.
I see another thing I actually want to point out as well. It's like, see when we've seen Owen, Eddie and Benoit die, McMahon went out of his way to give them good send-offs. Full-on tribute shows. Can't say the same recently.
Owen got that as well.
Yeah, Austin came out. Benoit and Guerrero, I think, were to the next level, especially Guerrero. And, I mean, Benoit's, obviously, that's what happened with Benoit afterwards. But it's like, see, recently, when has someone died? I know there's not really been that many people that died, but Wyatt was a part of the roster. They didn't really give him a full show.
No, they didn't.
Like, McMahon has went all out. You can't say McMahon hasn't went all out to give these guys the proper send-off they deserve.
Yeah, when Bray Wyatt passed away, he just got the wee lights. And a bell, like it was the Undertaker coming back or something for a return.
So I think it's incredibly unfair. I'm not saying McMahon loved Owen Hart, man, and he loved Benoit and Guerrero, but you know what? He gave them a send off not many of us could have dreamed of.
I agree, and you know what? I bet you if Bret wanted to be there the next night on Raw, I think McMahon would have squashed the beef and had him.
Yeah.
Despite him being employed by WCW at the time.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where we're going to end it, guys. It's unfortunate. I don't think there's many rights and wrongs of the situation. You can look at it many ways with 99. I mean, it would completely... See if he stops the show, man, in WCW, get a massive surge advantage. Then you could be like, people, the business minds will be like, well, why did Finn stop it? But he did stop it. And Bret, honestly, I just to conclude, I think if it was McMahon or Shane or Stephanie or Linda, or anybody for that matter, I think he would have kept the show going.
But here's the bottom line. You can't even say McMahon prioritised the show over Owen's life. Owen would have been dead, unfortunately, whether McMahon stopped the show or not. Yeah. Now, see if there was a question of if the show stopped, would Owen have lived? Then absolutely. But, I mean, I think Owen was pretty much dead as soon as he fell, so...
Yeah, and then obviously...
Stopping the show wasn't going to save him.
No. Of course not. But anyway, guys, that's where we're going to leave it. I mean, I guess there's a few more things to talk about regarding this Vince McMahon documentary, but...
we have heard stories, by the way, over the years about an ambulance that I don't think was brought up in this series. So I'm convinced
that was true. Yeah.
McMahon, I think if that was true, people would have walked at McMahon. I don't think people would have I don't like Mick Foley. I don't think he'd have the love for McMahon that he does. We've heard stories over the years.
Would Bret have went back?
Yeah.
It's one thing Bret going back over a screw job.
Yeah, we've heard...
A fake screw job, by the way.
So the stories that we've heard over the years is that McMahon wouldn't allow an ambulance to take Owen to the hospital because he had that ambulance in use for the show or something like that. I think that's bullshit. I think that's been made up.
Yeah, I think it's been made up because, I mean, that's the one thing I will say about Bret. It's like, if he feels this bad about McMahon regarding this and regarding the screw job and every other thing, then why would Bret ever go back? Why did he sell out in 2010? Honestly, it's just cash is king, and Bret Hart went for it. But honestly, I think McMahon, I don't think he did nothing wrong here. I don't think there was nothing heinous in it. Even if you think he was wrong, there was no malice in it. I think it was just one of those. I mean, honestly, imagine being put on the spot like that. Doesn't know what to do.
It's like a split-second decision, isn't it?
It is, and I think he's right. I genuinely believe if he falls live while like the lights are on and the focus is on Owen, I think he would have stopped it because he's right. The emphasis was on Owen. It's just one of those things, but that's where we'll leave it here on Fog Wrestling.
Let us know your comments down below and we'll catch you in the next one. Until then, peace.